Hello again. In today's video, I will shortly talk about all fundamental aspects of one of the most important concepts in FPS games like Overwatch, angles. We will cover the topics what's that, advantages, risks, and how to play with and against them, starting with the first point. Pretty much any position that is off of the main line of fire. The main line of fire is usually the sideline you get when you stand in what we call main. It is the obvious big open path everyone can take with ease. But to be more precise, we can also connect both teams with a line symbolizing how both teams look at each other. Any position which now gives us a new sideline on the enemy team can be seen as an angle. The wider the angle, the more aggressive you are. Here we could also classify angles into soft angle, off angle, wide angle, or pinch. Another term you will hear a lot surrounding this topic is flank. What people mostly mean with flank is a very aggressive position like a wide angle or a pinch, but technically angle and flank are interchangeable and mean the same thing. The third term I also like to use a lot is point of aggression, but that also means the same. Interesting to note in this section as well is that you cannot only flank the enemy team horizontally, but vertically too by attacking from above. The question now is, why do we even care? When you all stand in main and have the whole of the team in front of you, it is pretty easy to tell where they are. Therefore, it should not be a big problem to hide to stop taking damage. However, when the enemy team does this, it can be quite hard to actually get the kill. To solve this issue, we can take angles to get rid of their cover. And this is exactly why angles are so powerful. By taking different sidelines from main, we can put the enemy team in an open and uncomfortable position. It pretty much amplifies your damage output because you have the option to shoot squishies instead of being forced to tickle a shield or a tank's armor. This simultaneously means your damage can be worth more because percentage-wise it is more. Additionally, it can force out big cooldowns or ults this way very easily, or otherwise they play a respawn simulator. This means there's also more psychological pressure on your opponents, which influences their decision making. During chaos and confusion, people are bound to make more mistakes, which make them more frustrated too. It gets even more frustrating the more angles you take because it becomes physically harder to deal with them. You cannot look at them all. This leads to the point that scouting you becomes more difficult when you suddenly don't play main anymore, because most people, especially in lower ranks, are only aware of what's in front of them. They're not checking their flanks. From a third person's view, angles have some other very interesting effects. When you get shot by someone behind, a lot of players will turn around to deal with that threat. But when everybody turns around, then there is much less damage on the enemy's core. The angle pretty much took away the attention from the rest of the team, which they can use by walking in for free. You essentially split the other team by splitting their focus and therefore weaken their firepower. On top of all of these benefits, when you surround the enemy team or take multiple points of aggression, you take less AoE damage as a whole, which means less pressure on your team, plus you die less often to some random spam damage shot through main. But more importantly, the enemy team is not able to push all of you at the same time. Once they push one group, the others can simply farm. Being alone on an angle can be really scary because it can actually be a lot easier to kill you. This is why timing, besides of angles themselves, is one of the most important aspects of the game. Showing yourself early or engaging without your team being ready will end in you feeding, but a decently timed flank will do the opposite and might win you the fight. In general, the more aggressive your angle is, the later you want to peek after your team has engaged, or the more safe you have to play. Also, don't forget that you have teammates who can help you. Being in the range and LOS of your team means you can get resources, which help you live or win more duels. If you play an angle poorly, it can turn the great play into a disaster. When you see someone on your team who does not play on top of you, see the opportunity. We talked a ton about advantages these off positions can have, and the only real risk at first is that you don't really do anything with it. So again, if someone on your team is flanking, ask yourself either when could be a good moment for us to engage, to use the angle, or how can I help that person to get more value from the angle. When you keep an eye out on your teammates and see they're taking a different route than you, remember these two questions and do your best. As you might already figured out from the advantages chapter, awareness does play a big role when it comes to countering angles. If you only stare down main, never look left, never look right, never look up, never scout or anticipate anybody on the enemy team going for a sneaky play, then you will have a very hard time climbing. Predict angles and contest them before they become an issue, or try to walk away from them and find a new position where those angles are not as dangerous anymore. Taking cover and playing around corners is also a must do at any time. But the best tip is always to be proactive. The enemy cannot surprise you if you surprise them first or scare them away. Also, if you can't see someone specifically or you don't know where they are playing, it is probably not a good idea to just walk up through open space. Get the information first before you move. An angle is a position off of your course area. It allows you to gain a new sightline onto the enemy team, which provides more damage, pressure, and an attention split. It can be risky when you play completely alone, get scouted early, or mess up the timing. Use angles on your team to get max value and anticipate flanks and scout to be prepared for enemy attacks. Angles is a very important and powerful concept. Learning the how, where, and when as a player or as a team can ascend you to a whole new level of gameplay. How to take, contest, or support an angle in detail really depends on the hero you're playing, not just the role. Depending on the aggression, flanks could give either team a lot of reward, but they could also be really risky, and not every hero is made to take super greedy angles in every situation. They're also not always the right play, maybe because you play a composition that wants to move around together a lot. How to properly do it is not something you learn overnight and requires testing to gain experience. But it's definitely worth looking into and leads you to various other topics such as map control or space-making DPS heroes. Thank you very much for watching. My last video was quite a while ago, but I was always planning on making this video, which finally happened, and all your appreciating comments certainly helped to keep the spark. If you're interested in other videos like what supporting ranges are or what the map control cycle is, stay tuned for the future. If you want to see a specific topic, whether a very basic or an advanced one, let me know. See you soon.